Hello, welcome everybody. It's Dawn Anderson Butcher from Coach Beyond at Ohio State Life Sports, our partnership with OSHA, our High School Athletic Association here in Ohio. And we are just delighted today because I am here with my co-host again, Victoria Jones from Dayton, right? Victoria, say hello as my host, my co-host.
What's going on, everybody? We're back and we're excited to have one of the best players out of Dayton, Ohio. I am definitely a fan for sure.
Yeah, so we're talking about becoming a champion with Norris Cole tonight, and we're super excited about this one for a bunch of different reasons. Here's our game plan just to get going. We're going to talk about real briefly. I'm going to share some of the qualities of a champion. Our team at Life Sports has spent some time looking at Olympic athletes, NBA champions like Norris, and just synthesized a little of that just for the group to get us all framed together so we know what we're doing today. We're going to reflect on some of those components from a physical, mental, social health, well-being, and what coaches can do. And then really just sit down and explore with Victoria and Norris all the ways in which different coaches and different experiences shaped him to be the champion that he has been. And we'll tell a little bit more about him as we go. So with that said, Victoria, do you want to introduce Norris before I talk a little bit about the champion from our life sports angle?
Sure. They saw his bio, and the bio, I mean, we summarize it as champion. I've learned to have a relationship with him. He is one that comes back. Some just drive through, but he's actually sitting there eating popcorn with us. And I would describe him as the champion of the champions, just a class act, humble. You wouldn't even know that he's a two-time champion. And Norris, I believe you also have championships overseas too. So, we're just proud of him. And I mean, there's some fun facts. I probably should have saved it for later, but I think it's a good time to do it now. But, we sometimes often just focus on the sport. And Norris, you might can jump in here with me on this one, but I believe that somebody told me, and I don't know if it's a fact or a myth, but somebody told me on Wednesdays, something happened to you when it was time for basketball practice on Wednesdays. Um,
Yes, how you doing? I appreciate y'all having me. So we was gonna probably get into that later, but yes, every Wednesday I would have to leave practice early to go to Bible class, no matter what. So since I was a kid all the way up through high school, that was the rule. And on Wednesday nights, I had to leave practice early if it was
so
during.
Bible study.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that was, that goes with that whole character piece. So, your parents, they weren't playing that Wednesdays, so that's a fun fact to me. I probably should have been at, church too on Wednesdays, but I was probably dribbling the ball. But nonetheless, another fun fact about our champion, I think you played an instrument too, right?
Yes, I did. I grew up playing classical piano. I used to take piano lessons all the way.
Isn't that cool? So we're here all about this basketball piece, but we got this the champion of champions that, your character from a young child, and that's probably why you're a class act guy now. And then, been able to play classical, on the piano. So and
And
that
then I saw salutatorian, is that right? So get in the
yes.
classroom too. Shoot, man, all of it.
Hey man, and this guy from the Dayton Public Schools, I think people sleep on us, but he has definitely represented our district and our community well. His resume just speaks volumes, but when I sum it up, it's so much. I mean, he's on every Hall of Fame, and we're working as a district to try to get a district one, and I'm sure he's on top of the list, but just all around guy. So I'm excited to have a friendship with him. When we've called on him, he's here. He doesn't charge us, So we appreciate that, and it's an honor to be here with him on today.
Continues to give back, huh? Gives back, yeah. Cool.
Absolutely. That's
Well,
important.
still, you want to say hello real quick, Norris?
Hello. Nice to meet you guys. Looking forward to talking. Be looking forward to answering some questions and getting to know you a little bit and introducing myself so you guys can get to know me. And hopefully I can inspire you all to, be leaders and become champions in life and whatever you choose to do.
Awesome, awesome. Well, so one of the things, Norris, that we do whenever we're on these webinars is we try to hit on a little bit of content just to make sure that we equip our coaches and our parents and our student athletes that are out there watching this with a little bit of knowledge, right? That also kind of frames the conversation, but then allows people to take things from the webinar and maybe apply it a little bit in real life. So I'm going to have Sid's here. She's one of our star doctoral students here with Live Sports and Coach Beyond. So we're excited to have her. But, one of the things at Live Sports that we do is, we serve about 800 young people in our sport-based youth development program here on campus and in our community, both in the schools and also some of our City of Columbus Parks and Recreation Centers. So I wanted to pull these up because these are our little champions that we have in our curriculum for Live Sports. And one of the activities that we have our young people do that are involved is we have them mapping out qualities of a champion, right? And an Olympic athlete, because at Live Sports, they focus on the Olympic Games, our Live Sports games that happen at the end of our program in the summer. So at any rate, the way we talk about these things are these three things. So good, champions, people who are masters like you, whether it be on the court, in life, in the classroom, as a musician, when we think about them and in this context, we break it down into these three areas. So I'm going to give just a real brief overview of these three real quick. So that first area, which I think for coaching and coaches is the most obvious, right? It's sort of what do we do for our physical health, right? Our fitness, our strength, our conditioning. What do coaches do, right, to foster X's and O's? How do we teach kids skills, tactics, right? How do we get the most out of them when they're in the performance context that matter, right? So I think our coaches, Norris and Victoria, you tell me if I'm wrong, they're really well trained in this for the most part, right? So they tend to have a lot of education, some training and know-how in relationship to. At the elite level, a lot of coaches also have other coaches, right, who come in and help out with the strength and conditioning of the athletes. So for example, Coach Q here with men's basketball at Ohio State, is one of the best in that area, where others might have yoga instructors or dietitians and whatnot. So at any rate, that's the most obvious. And our coaches, we know we want to do that, but what we're talking about is coaching beyond, right? Coaching beyond that. And so the second part here, physical health, Sydney, please go back to physical health. Is around healthy habits, right? So as coaches, right, when we're developing champions, we also need to think about what our athletes are doing around their nutrition, around their sleep patterns. One of the big things we're seeing out there today is social media usage, right? So like, how do we as coaches help kids deal with maybe that public persona or a level of pressure and stress that comes with that online forum? And that again goes back to healthy habits for cell phone usage. Hydration is another one. So coaching around the physical health is a really important piece, one of the three when we're developing champions. Okay, so next one. So the next has to do with mental health. Good coaches, right, are always trying to foster confidence and mastery among their athletes. So they're really focusing on athletes putting forth their best effort, right, setting achievable goals, but goals that push them, right, to have to learn and grow and master and accomplish. But then they also really kind of hone in on that improvement over time, right? Making yourself, right, better, stronger, faster, quicker, in terms of your performance, both in terms of competence and also your confidence to take on new challenges. They also promote mental health. So they're asking open-ended questions, not yes or no questions. They're checking in with their athletes to seeing how they're doing both on the court and off the court. And then they also take time for athletes to learn mental skills. So skills like imagery, right? Self-talk, They teach them how to practice routines and mindfulness. And they wanted them to be able to call upon those mental skills while they're playing in the game. But they also want athletes to be able to use those skills in real life off the court. Champions holistically in mental health all around. All right, this last one, okay, last one for me is social health. We know in sport, right, that it takes tenacity, it takes persistence, it takes effort, it takes resilience, right? It takes problem solving, decision making, all of those amazing life skills that can be taught, right, through sport. What we know though is oftentimes coaches don't necessarily focus in on those as teachable moments. So they think of life skills as being caught, like they just happen innately through participating in sport, as opposed to you have to teach them, right? We got to teach kids how to be resilient. We got to teach them how to have tenacity, how to not give up. We got to put them in situations where they fail a little bit so that they learn to thrive and push forward through it. Really important context both in the gym, but also for kids to learn how to take out of the gym when they're navigating real life situations. And then the last thing about social health of champions is that they have a great team. So they are surrounded by good teammates, they have good peer systems, they have strong relationships with coaches and caring adults, right? They foster these good coaches foster these social connections, and champions have strong families, right? Caregivers, people who help support them as they are on this journey towards excellence, right? The whole athlete, the whole champion. So with that said, right? Now we're gonna dig down and talk a little bit about Norris. But before we do it, Norris, I want to tell you, my boy, before I flip this to Victoria, I want to share with you that my boys, right, are huge card collectors. So we got some cards of yours, right, and I found this one that I want to read to you, and I gotta get my glasses and my magnifying glass to be able to see, but I want to read this to you, and I want you to tell us what this means. This is one when you were with the Heat, okay? It says, many players have good luck charms, a go-to undershirt, a favorite pair of sneakers, okay? But none can match the size or success of Cole's talisman. Okay, that's what it says. Anytime Cole won a championship from high school to the NBA, his parents' 1993 green Chevy Astro van has been there for every step of the journey. Is that right?
Yes, that is.
Talk to us. We want to know what's going on. That's amazing,
Give us
right?
the juice. Give us the juice.
The
So,
juice.
when I was a kid, my parents, they had a van because, me and my sister and my cousins, we all played sports, and a lot of times we would all ride together in the van. So every championship I ever won, middle school, high school, they always had the van. And then college, they stopped driving it that much in college, but it was still there, and then when I was in the NBA, they caught wind of it. They do their background checks and they did a bio on me, and that's part of my story. So I talked about it in my story, and so they flew the van down to Miami, and Heat Nation signed it. So my green van is now all white. It's signed all white, covered in white signatures from everybody in Miami, and it was part of all of my championships, here in the United States.
That's amazing, right? I didn't know the latter part of that story. Wow, that is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen this card?
Yes, I remember that card. Yes, I have.
That's
My
great.
dad has almost every one of my collector cards. I don't know
Oh,
how he does this, but somehow he finds and gets all of them.
well, you clearly had amazing family support, right? And social support that brought you on your journey to be a champion. So so cool. Yes. Well, so Victoria, I'm gonna punt to you and let you kind of get things kick started after that, and we're gonna dig in a little bit with you, Norris, and learn some more about how we can share with other coaches how they can make champions too.
Okay.
All right, let's kick it off then. I know you told us a little bit about you, and I probably messed up. She probably won't let me be a co-host anymore because I didn't read your bio. But can you just kind of give us some highlights? Because the viewers may not know this special person that's on here with us. But can you just kind of walk us through? I know we can abbreviate it for, time's sake, but tell us who's in here with us.
Oh, you're gonna force me to brag on myself, talk about
Go ahead. I know the Bible says let another man boast, but we're gonna let you do it today.
So I'm Norris Cole from Dayton, Ohio. I graduated from Dunbar High School. I graduated, second in my class as the salutatorian. I won 2 state championships back to back at Dunbar High School. I was also a Wendy's Heisman finalist, as a sports and academic achievement. I got a scholarship to Cleveland State University where I graduated with a health science degree. And then while being at Cleveland State, I was fortunate enough to win the Horizon League championship 2 times, played in the NCAA tournament. I was the offensive and defensive player of the year in the conference, the first time that had ever been done in the conference history. And they retired my jersey, number 30. And they also put me in the Athletic Hall of Fame at Cleveland State, which led to me being drafted in first round to the Miami Heat, where I was able to win 2 NBA championships. I was also on the rookie all-star team. Um, Then I was fortunate enough to go overseas and win. I won a couple championships in France, and I won one in Israel, and I also won one in Montenegro. So I've been fortunate. The game has done a lot for me and my family. It has taught me a lot of lessons, which I'm going to share with you today. And I was also fortunate enough to be voted, selected into the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame last year. And so like Victoria said, I'm in the Cleveland State Hall of Fame, and I'm in the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame, and I'm at the Wall of Fame at Dunbar, where my jersey is retired. So, that's a little bit about me. I believe in academics. I believe in sports. I believe that in order to be successful in anything, there's a combination of things that you must have, regardless if it's sports, career, or community. And that's some of the things we're going to discuss.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I was fortunate to be there for the Ohio basketball, and felt like I was at the ESPY Awards or something. So thanks for the invite. That was fun. And I know the viewers, I know we hear about Coach Beyond and becoming a champion, but I gotta ask this question, because I know somebody probably thirsty over there saying, I hope she asked this question. How was it playing alongside of Brown and Dwayne Wade? I mean, we talk about the accolades and things like that, but we know that this orange ball, opens up opportunities and it put us in spaces that we never thought we would be. But to be near the king and Dwayne Wade, like, how was that as teammates?
It was fun. It was fun. My biggest thing was I wanted them to, respect me and look at me as a coworker the same way I have respected them in their game. And so, obviously, growing up as a fan, you're a fan of the game. But when I'm playing with them, I have to put that kind of fandom to the side. We're coworkers, and I have a job to do, and they have a job to do, and I wanted to earn their respect, just like they had earned my respect, and I was able to do that, and it was great. It was lights, camera, action. It was great.
I like that. They were my co-workers. I mean, but that's true. I was looking at your bio, and we know that we embrace at Dayton Public Schools, we embrace, through three-sport athletes. And I noticed that not only basketball, but you also the quarterback, football and baseball.
Baseball,
And I
right?
noticed you didn't stay with that track too much. I think it says you did that for a year, but
I won the
like,
district long jump. I won the district long jump.
okay. If
District-
you were not playing basketball, which one of those would you pick next?
I probably would have played football. I really loved football. It's just that when I sat back and made my decision on which sport I was going to like go for in college, it was pretty simple. I was willing to make all the sacrifices necessary for basketball, and I wasn't really willing to pay that price for football. And they're 2 different sports. There's 2 different type of trainings. There's 2 different type of levels physically and mentally that you have to go to. And I was willing to make all the sacrifices for basketball that I wasn't willing to make for football. And so it made my decision easy to go with basketball, even though I really loved football. I was probably better naturally at football, but football it's a different game. And my uncles played football, and I have a cousin that played in the NFL. So I saw the training, I saw how he worked, in order to make it in the things that was necessary. And I made up in my mind, I'm willing to do those things for basketball. I'm not willing to do those things for football.
Okay. Okay. So you discussed how, we had the van, we talked
Mhm.
about how you had to leave practice for Bible study. Let us tune in on some of these special people in your life. How instrumental was your family and your friends? And I want to go deep too with, what coach was really impactful in your life, because you've been on all levels. You were successful on all levels, but
Mhm.
who was that coach that impacted you, and just the impact that your family had on you?
So, first, my first coach was my father, which him and my mother, were my two biggest influences, along with my sisters. Um, but my parents were my first, and my strongest influence. And the thing that they stressed to me was, at the time, sports was just an extracurricular activity. It wasn't a priority. They didn't base our life around me playing basketball or my sister doing cheerleading or me playing a sport. Our life wasn't based around that. Sport was just recreation. So it was just a part of our life. It wasn't our whole life. And I appreciate them a lot for that, because that ended up helping me in my sport, being a well-rounded individual. And that's what they taught me and my sisters. They taught us to, work hard in everything that we do. Um, we don't necessarily have to be the best, but we have to give our best effort in whatever that is. And so once they figured out that I was an A student, I, I wasn't allowed to do anything else. so so they made sure that I gave my best effort, and that translated obviously to the court, when I later on in life, once I was able to level up. So yeah, my family background, they supported me. They always told me I can do anything. And I believe that. My dad told me I was special when I was a young kid. He always told me, he said, "You special." And I said, "How?" He said, "I don't know how." He said, "But there's something different about you, because I'm not, the tallest or the biggest guy. So if you looked at me growing up as a kid, you wouldn't look at me and say, 'Hey, he's the chosen one. He's going to the NBA.'" But it was something about my personality. It was something about my drive that he saw in me. And I believe what he said, which is the first lesson right now. If you have an influence over a child or over an athlete, what you say matters to them.
Yeah.
Because when my dad told me I was special, I believed it. He said I'm special, so I'm special. And when my mom told me there's nothing that I can't do, anything is possible, I was crazy enough to believe her. Anything is possible. A little kid from Dayton can go to the NBA. Hey, I believe it. And so, if you have a kid, or if you're a coach, or you have influence over an athlete, make sure you be careful how you speak to them, because us athletes and us children, we listen, and we listen to the good things, believe it or not. We don't always just listen to the bad things. We listen to the positive things. So if you tell a child, "Hey, you can do anything if you put your mind to it," and if you tell a child that he or she is special, they're going to believe it. And I believed it. And then they reinforce those actions by giving me some exposure. My dad coached me. He was my first coach. Um, Baseball and basketball. And then my uncles coached me in football. They taught me how to play football. They taught me the skill set of, the techniques and everything like that. And then the mental part, they were disciplinarians. My parents, they believe in discipline. So, if I did something right, that was good. But if I did something wrong, those actions had to be accounted for, which, as an athlete, we all know you have to be accountable. If you want to achieve greatness, you have to hold yourself accountable first. Your team has to hold you accountable. So I was getting that training young, and that training is what helped me and my sisters go on. We all graduated from college. We all have a career, and we all work and are successful people in society, which is what my parents wanted for us anyway. It just so happened I was able to have a special career.
Right.
It is just fun.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna kick it back to you, Don. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
really like taking this all in. This just this guy that comes in and sits and give a hug and say hi, and wow, I'm really enjoying this.
And to answer your question too about a coach, obviously my pops was my first coach, but I had a coach at the Salvation Army. His name was Bill Winters, and he played a real key role in my sports development as a basketball coach. He was very, very tough on the fundamentals. Taught me, how to make right hand layups, left hand layups, how to run an offense. how to be, be vocal, how to play defense, how to be, that was the first team I played for where I wasn't like the only good player on the team, like
Mhm.
fifth and sixth grade. Normally, of the teams I grew up playing on, I was like the best player by a mile. That team, we were all good. And so he taught me how to play well with other players and how to be accountable and how to lead other good players. And so Coach Bill Winters, he had a big impact on me. And then later on in life, I would say Coach Waters, my coach at Cleveland State, he changed my life forever.
Mhm.
Took a kid from Dayton, with one scholarship offer. He was my only scholarship offer, Cleveland State. And
Wow.
I was able to turn that into an All-American, NBA career. So those two coaches, other than my dad, was probably the most special coaches that I had.
That's good. That's good.
Super formative. So think I'm going back to the model of the champion, right? The family piece for you, instrumental, right? That support, the coaching of your dad, but mom, dad, your sisters, right? Siblings, and just that overall sort of family dynamic that strove for excellence, right? And had high expectations. But then I also heard you talk about this like confidence that was instilled in you as a very young boy, right? That you could do anything. You were special. You were gonna, right? And that kind of, I don't want to say self-fulfilling prophecy, but you never really doubted it, right?
Exactly.
And that's pretty special. And again, we hear that from elite performers, that idea, that confidence that somebody has instilled in you, and then match that with things like Coach Winters did, right? And Coach Waters did around the technical, the tactical, the fundamentals, perfecting the art so it becomes autonomous, right? Those are also really key parts to coaching elite athletes for sure.
Absolutely. And it's important for the coaches, but it's also important for us, the athletes, to listen and apply those things. So, when my dad told me I was special, I believed it. But not only did I believe it, I went out there in the classroom and on the court and I proved it to myself. I tried to prove what he was saying was right. So I think it's early in life, especially, it's definitely on the parents, on the uncles, on the coaches, because not everybody is blessed with two-parent households and all that, but everyone has, some sort of influence, whether it's a coach or a teacher or something like that. When they tell you something, student athletes, listen to them, the positive things, you listen to them, and then you want to go out there and you want to prove them right. You want to prove that you are special. You want to prove that you can achieve.
Yeah, and what we find, and I don't know, Norris, if you've noticed this today, but Victoria, I'm sure that you have, is there's this tendency right now to like play games, like just and not do the practice part, right? Which is where you get the instruction, you get the modeling of the skill, you really get, the fundamentals to be able. I was watching kids at the halftime of the Buckeye game last week, and it was the kids that were out there playing, they could only dribble with the right hands, their dominant hands. And it was like, somebody's got to be out there honing in and expecting them to be sure to, use both hands and dribbling and perfect that art at the fundamentals so that then you can do the tactics, the techniques, the bigger things that come with more competitive games, right? So I love how you were talking about that, and it sounds like you had that at a younger level that then allowed you to sort of perfect your art as you got to higher levels of competition, maybe with some of these other teams.
Absolutely. My dad used to say, if you can't do the easy stuff, you definitely can't do the hard stuff. And so, when it comes to learning the skills of, basketball, football, baseball, track, you have to learn the foundation. Once the foundation is right, it's just like a building. If you have a good solid foundation, you can build anything on top of it. Skyscraper, anything, but the foundation has to be laid. And so those skills were instilled in me young, about the foundation, the fundamentals. I learned 1 + 1 is 2. And then I started multiplication and division and all that. I learned how to dribble with my left hand. I learned how to dribble with my right hand. And once I learned how to do it, I learned how to do it, faster and then change direction. And then after that, then I learned, the more advanced things. And so learning step by step, to me, it's the best way when it comes to building a skill set.
Yeah, well, good. So thanks for hitting on that. So I was going to ask you a couple questions about your mental game before we kind of hit on these transition times, like as we move forward. I'll let Victoria punt that up, but talk to us about being a champion and your mental game, right? So there's the skills, the X's, the O's, the understanding the tactics in relationship to plays with your teammates. There's the confidence that's instilled. There's the support that you might have that you've talked about. But well, tell us a little bit more about your mental game and how you get ready to be, a champion on the court when you're out there.
Well, the mental game is what separates us as athletes. Uh, Not just athletes, business owners, teachers, whatever your career is. Your mental is what separates the good from the great and the great from the Hall of Fame level. Um, Believing that you can do something is first. Whether believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can't achieve, if you believe you can't do something, then you're right, you can't. But if you believe that you can achieve, then you can achieve. Of course, you have to put the work in, but the first step is believing that you can achieve and believing that you can be special, believing that you can go to college, believing that you can get that job. You have to believe it first. And then once you believe it, you start doing the steps to reinforce that belief. I believe that I could be a good basketball player, and to reinforce that, I practice. And in practice, when I make shots, I would make one, I would make two, I would make 100, I would make 500. Those actions reinforce that confidence, that mental confidence that, hey, I can do this. Because if you say you can do something, but then you don't put the work in and you never prove to yourself that you can do it, then that's what we call nonsense. So you have to believe it, but then once you believe it, you have to go put the work in to reinforce that belief. And that's what I've been able to do in every aspect, whether it's academics. I believe that I was smart, but in order to reinforce that, I had to study. I had to study. I had to go over timetables. I had to read chapters. I had to take notes and go over those notes over and over again, so that when the test came, I passed the test to reinforce, like, hey, I can do this. And so everyone's not test takers, like formal test takers, but everyone has to pass some sort of test in life to be good. And so you just have to believe that you can do it and then go out there and prepare for whatever that test is and put the work in.
That practice and the routines, right? And yep.
Absolutely. So I have Route 30, which is my company that I have. And one of the first pillar, there's three pillars: sacrifice, give back, inspire. The first pillar is sacrifice. And what sacrifice is putting the time in. Once you believe something in your mental and you put something in your brain, I want to do this, I believe I can do this. The next part right away is put the plan in place to do it and execute. And then you do it over and over and over. And then that's where the confidence, and then the ultra confidence, and then the mega confidence comes into play.
So the other ones, give back and inspire.
Yes, sacrifice, give back, and inspire. Those are the three pillars for Route 30. Because those are the pillars, which have helped me be successful in my life. When I broke down, thought about what has made me me and what has helped me to become who I am, those were the three things.
Yeah, well, you're inspiring me and this group right now, but also definitely giving back, right? Your knowledge and expertise. So okay, so Victoria, let's talk a little bit about these transitions. So one of the things that you've been able to do so successfully, right? I don't want to say pivot, but like successfully go from high school, right, to Cleveland State and make that leap to the collegiate level, one scholarship, right, that you had, and then make it great, right? And then from Cleveland State, right, having been so successful there, like you said, right? And then All-American, and then making that leap to the NBA, right? And then, winning 2 NBA championships, right? I mean, crazy, right? That in a row, like the time of your life, right? How those transitions from one phase to the other can be, for many athletes and coaches, right, really hard to deal with, right? Because you got to learn a whole new system. You've got to make a whole new peer network. You're dealing with challenges and stressors from the environment. You're still trying to balance your family. I saw a question in the chat: the family or your friends and your school and your life in general with your sport and art. Um, what do you think, Victoria? I mean, that's pretty hard time, right, of it?
Yeah, yeah. And I would say too, when we talk about back to back with NBA, I believe, if I can remember, it was back to back in high school too. And
Right.
oftentimes we focus on failures, but there's some pressures on continuing to be a champion too, sustaining that, from a mental standpoint, from hey, we expect you to be a winner, because that's what we're used to. So I'm curious too, even the pressures that come with maintaining that success. And obviously, as much as we want to be successful, what is Norris Cole on a day when you were not successful? What does that look like too?
Well, I'm gonna answer all three questions the same way. So when you come to expectations of being great or expectations to winning, that's when you know you're doing well. When people expect you to be great, when people expect, that means you've shown that you actually have the ability to be great. And so when you're preparing for those transitions, say we won a championship then 1 year, that transition to the next season, we understand that we're going to get everybody's best shot. We understand that we played longer than everyone else. So physically, we may be a little more tired. Mentally, you embrace all of it. You embrace the challenge of the unknown. When I went to college, I had to stop. I didn't think about the NBA. I stopped thinking about the NBA and just had to worry about dominating college because there was a challenge there that I hadn't conquered yet. So you can't skip steps. You have to take it one step at a time. And I found out that's the key to success. Take it one game, one day, one practice at a time. And not every day is going to be a glorious day. Matter of fact, most days won't. But if you keep chopping away and you keep chopping away and keep chopping away, eventually the tree will fall. Eventually the rock will break forth water. And so it's a day-to-day process if you want to be successful. And you have to get out. We have a false sense of being successful is like lights, camera, action, and it's all fun and games. Most days I'm tired. Most days I'm sore because I'm working out, because I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm traveling. Those things hurt. Training to be the best hurts. But I know that in my mind, I'm paying the price so that when I do have a competition, when I do have a meeting, when I do sit down in front of someone, I'm prepared. And that's what coaches need to understand. You have to think about the day to day. It's the process. Be process driven. A lot of people say, I've heard people say they hate losing more than they enjoy winning. And that's people's opinion. For me, I enjoy winning. And because I've tasted, success and I know what winning feels like, I'm addicted to that feeling and I want to have that feeling over and over and over again. And so I'm willing to do whatever it takes within the rules to achieve that feeling over and over again. So if that means I have to keep waking up early in the morning to go run, lifting weights, go shoot 1,000 shots, go to sleep, go to bed early at night, be sort of antisocial for a while I'm in training mode. If that's what I have to do to be successful, then I'm willing to sacrifice that and put the time in. Sometimes we want to be successful and do something else. There's an imbalance to success. Now
Yeah.
when you want to be the best at something, there's an imbalance. And I had an imbalance when it came to basketball. I had an imbalance when it came to studying in high school. It wasn't much of a social life like that. It was more training and reading and sleeping and eating. It was a lot of that. It wasn't train a little bit, study a little bit, go socialize a little bit, go hang
Yeah.
out a little bit, go see my family and friends a little bit. It was a lot of training, sleep, eat, study. Training, sleep, eat, study. Every now and then I, be able to socialize. And that's the imbalance that it takes. And coaches have to realize that. Be process driven. Do what you have to do on a process day-to-day basis. And when you look up, you'll be like, man, we've gotten better. I've
Yeah,
gotten
and it was fun, right? When you're working so damn hard, yeah.
no, that's not fun. It's not
But
fun.
it feels
The
good
fun
to
part,
achieve,
the
right?
fun
Yeah, to
part is the
work
winning.
hard.
The fun part is
Yeah.
the winning. That's the fun part. And that's what I tell people all the time. The fun part is when you get the result that you want. But it's not fun when you wake up, your shoulders hurt, your neck hurt, your elbow hurt from shooting, blisters on your fingers from lifting weights and your knees and stuff. That part hurts. But the fun part is when I get out there and compete, I know I paid the price, so I know I'm going to be better than my competition. That's the fun part.
So Norris, I'm going to tear it apart a little bit. I love that. But your comment about the process, focus on the process, right? That allows folks to think about the work, the effort, the being in the moment, the mindfulness of the training, so that you can keep doing that in the short term to get to the long term. Does that make sense? And so finding fun in the process is also important, at least from the research that we found. So hey, so I'm going to pivot you a little bit. What I hear too is, like, as a champion, all the things, especially where you are now and in your elite career. Tell us what coaches have done, right, to help you along the way navigate those situations, right? So, like, what kind of things did coaches do maybe when you were facing adversity, right? One of the questions here is, in a game or, in your training, you hit a setback. What did the coach do to, like, help you get back on track or reset? What does the coach do to help you uber focus on, right, that, and keep that end balance in check, right? But also say, hey, train, study, family, train, right? Talk to us about coaches, the actual practices that they did in order to help you be so successful.
Man, I've had so many different coaches. I'll give you Coach Waters, for example, at Cleveland State. He believed in athletics and obviously training hard, but he also believed in, like we're talking about, the mental. And so we had what we call success class before we practice. Like before every practice, we would have success class where we would talk about what are we about to do moving forward, how this is going to help us not just on the court, but help us in life, and if we had any questions or concerns, we could voice them and talk about that. We called it success class, and he gave us books to read. We read books, and one of the books that he gave me that really applied to my life, that still applies to my life, is called Talent is Never Enough by John Maxwell. It's a John Maxwell book. And what that talked about, obviously the title kind of explains talent is never enough. It talks about you have to have more than talent when you're trying to achieve. You have to have perseverance, which is what you were talking about. You're tired sometimes, you don't feel like it, or you're frustrated. In that success class, he always talked about, it's going to be times during this season where you're not going to like what I have to say to you. There's going to be times where you and your teammates may not get along all the time. But remember, y'all have a common goal and you have to persevere. And so for coaches, it's important to set aside a time outside of the actual physical training. It could be for 5 minutes, it could be for an hour, depending on your time. It could be something simple or something longer, but to tell them, like, hey, listen, reset your mind for what we're trying to do. And that's what the best coaches I've had, whenever I've struggled or was having an off night or frustrated, they would always help me reset my mind. Like, hey, listen, take a breath. All right, what are you here for? I'm here to do this. I'm here to do that. All right, focus on that. Everybody misses shots. Everybody has a turnover. Everybody's frustrated sometimes. Hey, you having a bad day. That's all right. But hey, you're human. Once we have that human interaction or refocus, you know what you're supposed to do. Go out there and do it. And I'll be like, all right, coach, I got you. And that's how it goes. And sometimes you have to do it over and over again 100 times to some people. And then sometimes you might have to just say it one time to a player. Every player is different. But you have to reset that player's mind. Like, hey, slow down. One, what you thinking? What you thinking? Is it the sport, or is it something else that's going on? If it's the sport, all right, here, listen, this is what I see. This is where you're struggling at. Think about doing this. Simplify it. Simplifying is the best thing anybody can do. Whenever I was struggling in school, my teachers and my parents or my tutors, they always simplified things for me. On the court, when things were not going the way I wanted them to, my coaches, they always, hey, get back to basics. So if I miss a few shots, I go make a few layups just to see the ball go in, just for my confidence to see the ball go in, make a few layups, make a few free throws, and then I get back to the drill of advanced shooting, just to reset my mind, just to reset and get back to base. And I think coaches who are successful, the coaches who I've had that were successful working with me and my teammates, they always was able to help us to reset our minds back to baseline.
Victoria, that's that NP. Next play, right?
Yeah, next play for sure. I've been hearing that quite a bit here lately. You know, we're still in this college mode a little bit, and you know that things have changed in the college world since you played, definitely since I played. I mean, I'm 2001, so I've been out for a little while. My question to you, it's like we're free agents now on the college level when we talk about the NILs. I just would like to know your opinion about, you know, maybe the positives or even the negatives, and how has that impacted even recruitment or even the lifestyle of coaches and even players on that level? And how has it impacted our, you know, world of basketball?
Well, I think from the positive side, I think it's good that players are able to get paid for their work, for their labor. You know, before, when you turn 18 in every other walk of life, you're able to get paid for your work. It was only in college, college sports that people were able to make money off of you, but you not get paid from your labor. So I think that it was right, that players get paid. However, I do believe that it has gotten to an extreme where everything has become too transactional. There's no, I don't want to say there's no, but it seems like everyone is transaction based. What can I get? And if I can't get it from you, I'll go get it from someone else. And that attitude is dangerous. And I don't like that for our athletes. I believe that if you're special, I believe that if schools get paid off for your labor, you should get paid. But I also believe that students should be committed to something other than money.
Mhm.
They should be committed to getting better, because everybody's not going to be a pro NBA, NFL player. Guys that getting paid big money for NILs, most of those guys are, NFL, NBA, possible caliber, but most of college athletes, 99% of them are not going to go pro in sports. They're going to go pro in something else. They're going to have to be doctor, lawyer, police officer, whatever it is. And so I believe that athletes have to readjust their thinking, not just about money. And right now it seems like everything is transaction based. You give me this, I'll come to your school. If you don't give me this, I'll look to go to a different school. So there's no commitment, to your school. There's no commitment to your team. There's no commitment to yourself to get better, because if you want to get better, a coach has to coach you hard. And it seems like nowadays when a coach coaches a player hard, they get upset and want to transfer out.
Mhm.
My coach coached me very hard. Coach Waters was very tough on me. Most kids would have definitely transferred the way coach coached them. My freshman year was very, very difficult. But because I was willing to listen and buy into the program, sophomore, junior, and senior season was very special. It got more special after more special after more special, but I was all in.
Perseverance, right?
Perseverance, and you have to go through those tough times. And I wish our athletes would not be so quick to run away when things got difficult.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah,
also,
but
I'll go ahead. I'm sorry, Don.
I also loved how you talked about your relationships with your coaches, right? So there was this part, not just that your coaches really grinded and coached you hard, right? That was what you said, but that you had this respect, this expectation that they gave you that you wanted to meet and exceed. And there was this like dynamic interface that you had with your coaches but also with your teammates, right, that made it so it wasn't transactional because it was socially based as well, right?
Yes,
um
yes. That's
yeah.
important. Well, I probably wasn't good enough for it to be transactional anyway at the time. My freshman year, but by the
You,
time I was
what
that
was
good,
your deal gonna be?
yeah, I don't. Well, after my freshman year, it could have been a lot, because I played really, really good after that year. But I would say that me and my friend was talking about what we have left. If somebody would have came and offered us more money, I told him I wouldn't have left, because I enjoyed the camaraderie that I had built, the relationship I had built with the campus, with the school, with the administrators, with my teammates, and I also enjoyed the freedom that I had as a player. I enjoyed the style of play that I had at Cleveland State, and I wouldn't have wanted to change that. But it came down to, I believed in what the coach was pouring into me. I believed in the lessons that he was teaching and the coaching staff, the books and things that we were reading, every time I applied it, those lessons seemed to work. And so I wasn't going to leave that for anything. And I believe that if, our athletes were committed, not just to the sport part, but to the life aspect part, and built their relationships on campus and with the administrators and things like that, you can have a special college experience. Because like I said, everyone's not going pro. I know on the headlines, it seems like they're always talking about the high profile athletes, but most of the athletes are not high profile. So there has to be some sort of commitment to your university, to your coaches, to your teammates, and to yourself to like, hey, I'm committed here and I'm going to get better, because it's a microcosm to life. In relationships, a lot of people nowadays, hey, I don't like something, I'm leaving. There's no commitment, it seems like, but that starts young. Hey, I don't like what the coach said, I'm transferring schools. Up, they're not giving me what I want, I'm going to go to a different direction. And so that's a microcosm to life. And I think we have to show more commitment when we say that we're going to sign somewhere, when we say we're going to have a contract with this, we have to commit ourselves once we put our name to something.
I think that's
Yeah.
a good lesson for all of us. It's so easy to run. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
easy to run. And my last thing that I'm gonna punt it back to Don. I hear you say that, when we talk about everybody being the best and how, the elite, separating them from just kind of like the regular Joes. But and on my level, um, we all think we're really good. We all want to be a champion. I want to be a Norris Cole. In fact, sitting here listening to you, I wish Coach Waters was my coach. I mean, you speak so highly of him. What advice would you give the young athletes who want to develop qualities of a champion? Because we know you don't just wake up. I mean, I know your parents seeded into you, which I think that's the spiritual part of you guys, but you also had to believe in that, and I believe that if they spoke that to you, they were nurturing that as well, and safeguarding that, and there were protections through that. But just regular Victoria that aspires to be a champion, what are those qualities? What can you advise us? Because again, you had back-to-back championships, high school, champion college, and NBA. I mean, overseas. I mean, just champion. So you're the best one to tell us about the qualities of a
I
champion.
would, I would say, well, one, every champion is mentally tough, physically tough, and emotionally tough. Obviously, the mental part of it is being able to focus on the game plan, regardless of what's going on. The emotional part is keeping your emotions in check while you're being able to remember the game plan. And then the physical part is just the physical actually executing the game plan. So you have to be mentally, physically, and emotionally tough to be a champion. But I would tell a kid, I would say with the internet, we have access to everything. There's a such thing as YouTube University. There's Google. And so the basic thing I would say to you young people out there would be Google what you want to do, YouTube what you want to do so that you can see with your eyes what it looks like. And then I would say read. There's books about a lot of successful people. There's books on discipline. There's books on how to train. There's books on emotional intelligence. There's a lot of literature out there. There's books on your favorite athletes. Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Wayne Gretzky. There's books on, your favorite artists or entrepreneur out there. There's many books in literature. So I would say look on YouTube, look on Google, read
Read some
read
books.
read some books and come up with a plan. Write down like, hey, I want to get a scholarship. Write that down. Whether you're in the third grade, whether you're in the 10th grade, whether you're in 11th grade, write down. I want to achieve a scholarship, whether it's sports or academics, whatever that is. Or if you don't want to go to college, say you want to have a trade and you want to work, I would like to own a trunking company, or I would like to get an HVAC certification. You write that down, and then you write down the steps that it takes to get there. And it's going to be the same, whether it's sports or in life. What you write down is going to be the same. The only difference is going to be the technical part of it. Obviously the sport versus the HVAC, but the steps of like, I have to get my rest.
Yep.
I have to study the skill. master the skill. Once I master the skill, I have to get someone else to believe and hire me for the skill. And then I have to sustain that over and over and over again. And so that's what I would say. I would say, go on Google, YouTube, look at webinars like what we're doing now, study from other successful people. It's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat.
Come on. I like that one.
I'll be the right cat. Hey,
Yeah.
in that other book, that talent is never enough, right? I like,
Yeah.
yeah, right. That's a good one too. Hey, so I mean, that third pillar, inspire, inspirational, like totally, Norris. I'm inspired. So, hey, real quick, we do have a couple of questions that are coming in, and I want to make sure. I know we're coming up on the end of the hour, so I want to make sure we get a couple of the questions done, and then I have a little bit to wrap up with because I got a list here of some cool nuggets. Sid, I think I can see the chats. One of them, so Robert here has said, what advice would you give to new coaches that want to improve their relationship with their student athletes? So new coaches building rapport relationships with their athletes.
And the Norris, I believe that's Robert Kirksey, who's Dunbar alumni, I believe. But I'm just saying.
What's up, Rob? Shout out to the blue. But to answer to answer your question, I would say be real with them and don't be transactional with them. Have conversations with them outside of practice. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them, and when they give you the generic answer, don't let them get away with giving you the generic answer. Go in depth. Be real with them. They say I'm doing good. Okay, what's good about today? What are you doing that's so good? How are you feeling? How's your body feeling? How's your mind? How you like have a real conversation with them so that they know that you care. Because one thing children understand, they know real versus fake.
That's
It's
true.
it's like an innate thing in a child. They know if you're there for them, if they can trust you, and if they can't. I don't know what it is about a child that knows that, but they know if you're faking it or not. And so I would say be real with them and ask them real questions and get to know them on a personal level. I'm not saying be an FBI, but like get to know them on a personal level so that they can let their guard down to listen to you and trust you. That's what I would say if you want to,
Yeah, that authenticity, that genuineness, right? Like really showing that, you care. Checking in, I heard you say check in with them, not just about their performance and their in the sport, but in their life and what's going on around them. That's a good one. Okay, so this last one, and then we're gonna have to wrap up. This one's a little interesting. It's about athletes, like as a coach, we always joke, not joke because it's not really funny, but like every athlete, including you, Victoria, right, eventually drops out of their sport, right? There's always an end. Some of our, I was a collegiate soccer player. There's always an end to our journey as an elite athlete or as an athlete in general. And so, but this is about leaving sport. What do you think coaches or parents should do when athletes are leaving sports, either due to like age or skill, like you kind of age out, you drop out, like I did, or when they're facing like an injury, like a career injury that maybe gets in the way of their continued participation? How do coaches deal with those kinds of challenges that student athletes might have in both those ways?
Well, I would ask the first thing I would think a coach should probably do is ask the athlete what do they really want. And you'll be able to look them in their eyes and know what they really want. You know a person that's like driven, like, hey, I'm not done. I want one more crack at it, versus a person that might be like, yeah, I think I want to do it again. Like, like, hey, they're probably done. So I would say have an honest conversation and ask the athlete what do they really want. And then look at the investment and what it's going to take if you're going to try to keep going. Hey, now, if you want to continue this, you're going to have to be able to do this, and this. Are you still willing to do that? Do you still want to do it? And if that answer is yes, then you try to support them and do it. But you also have to be real with them because there's some injuries that it's hard to overcome and become an elite athlete again once you are a certain age. When you're 21, 22, you can recover for some things. 25, you can recover from some things. Now, when you're 30 plus, your body don't recover the same from certain major injuries. And so that also plays a factor in that, how old they are. Is it worth you coming back and you're 38 years old, 37 years old, or 32 years old? Is it worth it to you going through all that rehab just to play 1 or 2 more years and have to risk being, being handicapped? Because as an athlete, some injuries can make you handicapped. Knees, ankle, hips, back. You can walk with a cane. I know some athletes that retire walk with a permanent limp, and so you have to ask them, like, do you really want to go through this? These are the possibilities. And so once you have that conversation with them, you'll find out, do they really want to or not? And for the aging athlete, you just have to understand we all have an expiration date. We all just an athlete. We can
It's
try.
not drop out, it's expiration date.
We
I
all
like
have-
that.
Get
It's a
the
good
Ben,
reframe.
get the Bengay. Yeah, get the
Yes.
Bengay out. Get the icy
My
hot.
expiration date is over, right?
we all have one as an elite athlete,
Get the icy hot out. The Bengay.
for sure.
The Epsom salt.
I would just tell athletes to mentally prepare yourself for it, because it's going to happen. The same
Right.
way you mentally prepare for a tough game, you have to prepare like, hey, you don't have the burst anymore. You have to be able to
Yeah.
have those difficult conversations like, listen, I love you, I care about you, I'm your coach, but listen, you don't have the burst anymore. You
That
have to have that.
sounds sad.
You have to be real, because if you lose the step, you might be able to still be a pro. But if you lost your step and you're no longer elite the way you were, and you can't perform and help a team the way you once could, somebody has to be willing to be honest with you and tell you that. Because what you don't want is get out there and look bad and make yourself look bad
Yeah.
and hurt your team. And so, as a coach, I would say be honest with them.
Yeah. That honesty, genuineness, authenticity, right? That again, it goes back to that kind of engagement relationship that a coach has with their athletes on their teams. And they have to find that, right, in all of the players, right? And as they are coaching. So okay, well, so hey, so listen, we're a little bit after 8. So I just to kind of like review, Norris, unless there's anything else that sitting inside you that you want to share with us before we wrap this thing up and let you on to your probably more training and training issues coming up.
I would just say, going back to those pillars, to coaches and athletes, I would say sacrifice. Be willing to put the time in. There's no substitute for putting the time in. Put the time in to get to know your players. Put the time in to get to know your opponents. Put the time into your strategy. And for athletes, put the time in to know your coaches. Put the time in to know your classmates or your teammates or your community. And then put the time in to hone in on your craft. And then I would say give back. Help others. It's not always about you. Some of the most successful businesses, companies, and people are people who provide a service for someone else. And so, be willing to give back. If you're an upperclassman, be willing to give back to that freshman and that sophomore, so that when they become seniors, they can be successful and pass it down to the next freshman and sophomore. And then inspire. One thing that drives all athletes is inspiration, especially kids. When you inspire a kid, they'll do anything. They won't need you to babysit them and walk them through everything. They'll find a way. One thing we all know, people do what they want to do. And when you inspire someone to do something, they'll take the necessary steps. So I would say, make sure you sacrifice, pay the price, make sure you give back and help others, and then inspire your community, your teammates, the next generation, inspire the next. And I think you can be successful in literally anything. And that's the Route 30 way. That's the way I've been successful. So I know it works.
Yeah, that was powerful. Thank you for, and Route 30, those 3 pillars are very, a very special sacrifice, give back, right? Inspire others, right? Be that light. Yeah. Well, so, thank you. So just to wrap up, I want to kind of remind everybody of at the beginning these qualities of a champion. And Norris, it was pretty amazing because you were like, you got to be an elite athlete. A champion has to be mentally tough, physically tough, emotionally tough, right? You also talked about the social support of your family and your teammates and your siblings, and that work that happens around an athlete to be great. And then the team environment, and even how you were motivated by some of the things that the AD and the coaches and the culture at Cleveland State did, right, to have you feel that sense of commitment. You used the word commitment, belonging, that was driven by probably really great, authentic coaches, like Coach Waters, right, and your younger coach, Coach Winters. So tons of rich examples from you. We've put in the chat a handout as well that sort of synthesizes some of the content that we prepared ahead of time for this. But I think, Norris, you said things better than our handout did. So I have some nuggets, some Route 30 nuggets from Norris, and there's a long list that we're going to wrap up with, but we'll get these out to folks too in some way. But hear me out here. So these are all quotes. Believe you can achieve.
Mhm.
Mental is what separates us. Mental
Yes.
is what separates us.
Mentality.
Yep, the mentality, right? Mentality is embrace the challenge of the unknown,
Yes.
right? What's next, right? My favorite, you can't do the easy stuff, right? Or if you can't do the easy stuff, you definitely can't do the hard stuff, right?
Right.
It's like you got to know these basic fundamentals first. And then part of that was simplify, right? So when you hit these adverse situations, coaches talk to you about sort of going back to the basics, right? Simplifying, breaking it down. I think you gave an example of like going back to a layup or something, which I think was a great strategy. Um, the one I thought was interesting is to be the best, there is an imbalance, right?
Yeah.
And this commitment, sacrifice is the word that you use. But one of the questions in the audience was like, how do you balance work and life and play and sport? And and sometimes we get out of balance in our efforts towards exceptionality, right? And I think you asked for grace from your support system. You're like, they need to know I'm kind of antisocial right now because, right? Because I'm in this long haul with some sacrifice going on, right? Which I thought was really insightful for you, and also to share with others, right? That was pretty cool. The one practice, you broke it down, one practice, one day, another day, one time, keep chipping away. And then the process of that, right? The
Yes.
process over time, but that at the end of the day, that winning, you've tasted it and it's pretty awesome, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling. Now,
Yeah.
listen, I don't want you people out there to mess up your marriages now when I'm saying be in balance. Now. Don't go out there and tell your wife, hey, I'm not coming home. I gotta do this. Don't blame me for that.
Norris said I could.
I'm just saying you have to communicate. I left that part out. Make sure you communicate so that people understand. My family, my friends, they understand my goals. And so they supported that. So that was kind of funny to me. I just want the disclaimer.
A disclaimer.
Because this video is going to be put up, sir.
Absolutely.
Hey, Don, before you wrap up, I always think about if I'm not moderating, what would I want to know? Not every day you have a two-time NBA champion, and we know, well, we don't know, but he knows the things that come with that world. You can either answer one or the other. What was your first purchase when you became an NBA player, or what did you buy after you became a champion? Because that money probably look a little different when you win a championship.
I would say, first thing I ever bought, after we won the championship, I bought myself a car. A car that I always wanted. I bought myself a car with that.
Now you know I'm gonna say what car.
Yeah, but I can't say that because then people in Dayton be
Oh,
watching.
okay, yeah.
But
Never mind.
I did buy myself a
Text
particular
it to
car.
me. Text it to
Yeah.
me.
I bought myself a particular car that I always wanted. And so yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to be able to actually buy a car and not like lease or finance it, to be able to be like, hey, this is my car. And I still own that car. I still have it. And it's a symbol really to me. It's just to me it's a symbol. My first car that I ever owned, my hard work paid off, and so now it's a symbol.
It's like juice, right? The green van,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
the
then, by the way,
symbol.
if y'all have any other questions, outside of this webinar, I'm gonna put my Route 30 Consulting website in the chat, and that way you can, if you have any other questions or you want to have a different type of question answer survey time or whatever, you can hit me up from that website, and we can talk further later on.
Champion mentality. That's what I like.
Yeah. Yeah, we love it. Well, Norris, we can't thank you enough for being here on our Coach Beyond webinar and sharing your expertise and your knowledge of being you are a champion, right?
Yes.
Like 10 times over. And
Champion of the champions.
and thank you for, giving us a long list of nuggets and inspiration mostly, right? About what it takes and what it's like to be a champion and still be humble and genuine and authentic and inspirational. So we are really grateful to have you. Last, Sid's gonna pull up real quick here a wrap-up slide. We do ask that folks that attend our webinars jump on the evaluation and give us some feedback. She's also put an evaluation link in the chat. So fill that out. Let us know how we're doing here at Coach Beyond. We have support from the Susan Crown Exchange as part of the Million Coach Challenge nationally, and also from the Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services, Ohio MOS, and the governor's office here in Ohio. So we really just want to keep pushing out really great stuff like we did with Norris today, so that all of us coaches, parents, student athletes, anybody out there can be better at supporting young people so that they can be exceptional and champions in their own way. So with that said, thank you, Victoria. I appreciate you,
Thanks,
girl.
guys.
Right. And Norris, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Yes.